Hey, how you doing? This is your boy Brogi Naric back again with another episode of BUMP Psychology. Doing another review for Vice TV's Dark Side of the Ring. We're going to be talking about the recent episode, the Dynamite Kid. And I got my guest with me. He's back again. Cuba to go. Cuba, say hello to the people.
What's up, people?
There you go. There you go.
For higher demand, I am one of the GOATs on YouTube. You all will respect me, and if you don't, you will be added to the list of Cuba.
The GOAT. There you
now,
go.
if you don't, I get the dog to attack you.
All right, and we're going to be talking about the Dynamite Kid episode. But before we get into it, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And thanks for doing so. Now, the Dynamite Kid, a.k.a. Thomas Billington, wrestler, highly influential British wrestler. He's known for his, he helped make wrestling a little more fast-paced and a little more, higher work rate, the movement. Because wrestling used to be big guys moving kind of slow, taking their time. And he was one of the wrestlers that helped influenced it to be a little more faster, a little more high flying, stuff like that.
Paved the way.
He's one of the people who paved the way for that. And I knew of the Dynamite Kid, but I didn't know his story that well, and I haven't seen many of his matches. But this episode was really fucking good. Because I knew he was an asshole, but like actually hearing the stories is like, oh yeah, he really was a piece of shit. Like all in all.
Yeah. I don't want to be around him. He's dead now. But.
Yeah. He's gone now, but yeah, he's one of those legends who's, because of his personal life, he doesn't get recognized as much. Which was one of the things his wife talks about in this, where she's like, she would rather him be remembered for his work as opposed to his issues outside of the wrestling. Because as she says, there are other people who did worse and they get their recognition, and so he should get his, which is understandable.
Whose fault this really is, looking at this episode, we'll end up touching on it. This is, you notice he didn't start having them problems till he went to the WWE, right?
Well, that's part of it.
It was a major problem.
They got worse, yes. That's, you know what, I went back and rewatched the Jimmy Snuka episode. And yeah, Vince was on that bullshit back in the day, man.
Exactly.
Vince was on some shit back in the day, man.
It was okay. He was well respected. He was in Japan, Stampede.
Yeah, Japan, Canada, England. Yep.
Canada, yeah. All of a sudden, goes to WWE, forms up with British Bulldog, as the British Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And Bat gives out, and that's like the downhill, the decline right there.
Yeah, we'll get it.
6, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But one thing I want to criticize this episode on, early on, it opens with Lance Storm, wrestler, Canadian wrestler, ECW, WWE, I think WCW as well. Why was he in this episode? He had two scenes. Why was he in this episode?
More than that. I thought he talked more than that.
He had two scenes. He said, Dynamite Kid was influential. All the shit I just said, he was influential on the business. And then he was also like talking about how he was a fan of him. But then he also was like, yeah, he was also, pretty shitty. And I can't support that aspect, but I do support the wrestling side. That's all he said. And I'm like, why was he in this episode? Because like I wanted more from Lance.
Oh, sorry. Well, we had Cornette, and he ain't like Warrior. He was on Warrior's episode. So
yeah, but
is that what you talking about? Like.
No, I'm just like, he was there, but he only had like 2 segments. Everybody else had more segments, and I'm like, why did you waste Lance Storm if that's all he had to say? That's
this is his first time on it, right?
Exactly.
First time I seen him.
I think so. I don't think he was in any other episodes. So it's just like, why was Lance Storm here if that's all he literally had to say?
I guess they try to get him to compare the ring work, but I don't think their ring work was the same, right? But I know of.
I don't know. I thought it was weird. I mean, he's definitely one of the people that was influenced by Davey Boy Smith, but other than that, I just thought that was kind of weird that he was in the episode. But anyway, so we get that.
While I was alive, he'd be in this episode.
Yes, Chris Benoit was definitely influenced by
They barely touched on him though. You
yeah.
notice except they mentioned at the beginning,
yeah,
and
Dave,
then at the end.
yeah, Dave Meltzer mentioned that he was talking about like Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, some of the other Japanese wrestlers, was Jushin Thunder Liger, and some other people. So yeah, they got it in a little bit, but yeah, so it really jumps off with his wife Michelle Billington, with his ex-wife, sister of Julie Hart, which I didn't know she was. You know, the whole Hart Foundation and the Bulldogs and everybody were all. It's almost incestuous. Everybody's marrying other sisters, and yeah. So she's the sister of Julie Hart, who was Bret Hart's ex-wife. She met Tom at Stampede Wrestling in Canada. They got married when she was 18. And she mentions how they had a lovely marriage for the first 5 years. And then like things started to change when she had his back injury. They had their first daughter, Brownwyn Billington. And I like how she talked about her being backstage and being close to Macho Man and Elizabeth. And she remembers, they brought up more of the positive side of the early years of her dad, him being kind of a funny guy, him being close to her, and nice stuff like that, as a contrast to who her dad was when it came to the wrestling business. Yeah. So Tom was born December 5th, 1958, and he died on his birthday, actually, on his 60th birthday, which is kind of crazy.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, because I remember
what year did he die?
2018.
Okay, so I was at work, and I'm like, damn, he died right on his birthday. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I remember that too, because everybody was like, yeah, Dynamite Kid died, and it was like, yeah, fuck Dynamite. It was that argument, like, man, he was influential, and other people was like, man, fuck that guy, because X, Y, and Z. Which I didn't know all of his stories, but like I said, watching this, it's like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. So, Tom was trained at the Snake Pit Wrestling Club in Wigan, United Kingdom, where he was basically got his ass whooped a lot, and that helped him develop his it molded him into like a tough son of a bitch. He developed his wrestling style. He had more of the sort of like the Greco-Roman style, the fast movements, but he also high impact with the jumping and the flipping and the going over the barricades, submissions and all of that. And he made a big impact in Stampede Wrestling with the Hart Foundation and working in Japan. His matches, the Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask 1, were like hugely popular. They helped change the wrestling style for future generations. We get Mick Foley, who was a fan of that, talking about how he tape traded it and obsessed over that, and that kind of helped him get into the business. Mick Foley was Mick Foley was really good.
Slimmer too.
Well, yeah, he's been working out, but he was a huge fan. He's another wrestler who also did a lot of crazy bumps and harmed his body for the fans. So I get the connection between him and Dynamite Kid, and he tells the story. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, because Mick Foley is considered one of the nicest people in wrestling, from what I heard. So he tells the story of he had one of his earlier WWF matches against the British Bulldogs. It was the British Bulldogs versus Jack Foley and Les Thornton, and they were younger guys, and they do mention that Dynamite Kid was always tough on the earlier guys because he was brought up in the tough side of the business, and so he gave that back to the other wrestlers. And he talks about how he got into the ring and he Irish whipped him and then kind of clubbed him in the face with his forearm and dislocated his jaw. Like, god damn. And like Mick Foley was like, he took it as a badge of honor, even though he threw up and couldn't eat for like a couple of days.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, it's why it was a different time, because if that shit went down today, it wouldn't be quite the same. You know what I'm saying? But
he would be out of the promotion.
Basically.
Or the business.
Yeah.
The business.
He's out of the business. But yeah, that was a wild story. So he's working in Canada. He's in with the family. He's getting popular. Now, he was already taking steroids. They did the episode kind of makes it like, oh, his steroids problems was bad when he got to WWF. They got worse, but he was already taking steroids before that. I got this. I'd heard his body started to change because he was a smaller guy. He was like 5'9", but he was kind of broad. But he wasn't
like my height, yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't jacked. Unlike his cousin Davey Boy Smith, who's like 5'10", 5'11", but he was a broader guy, and he was also jacked and on the roids. So once
I guess you could say,
yeah,
he was probably built like Pac when he was in his early years.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example. Yes, he was definitely like Pac. Exactly. That's a very good example. I'm pretty sure Pac is heavily influenced by Dynamite Kid as well. So Dynamite Kid joins the WWF in 1984, where he joins his cousin Davey Boy Smith, also his other family members Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. They form the tag. Well, before that, like I said, his steroid use got worse, but apparently his steroid use he started taking steroids back in 1979 when Junkyard Dog introduced him to the antibiotic steroid called Dynamite, and of course, and he was also introduced to speed thanks to Jake Roberts when he was in Canada. So
what else hasn't he been exposed to by Jake Roberts?
Exactly. So it's funny how that happens. But once they's in the WWF, him and his cousin Davey Boy Smith become the British Bulldogs, which is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Just these two beefy, burly badasses beating the shit out of everybody. They walked around. They had the little Bulldog, Matilda. They were a very popular team back in the day. And they won the tag belts from Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake at WrestleMania 2. And they were like the top tag team for a couple of years after that. And then things started to change once they had their, as you mentioned, Davey Boy had, Tom had his back injury. But we also...
Who did they face? The Rougeos?
When they lost the belts?
No, when he got hurt, because they lost it right after that.
When he got hurt, it was I remember looking it up. I think it was Don Morocco and Bob Orton. It was Bob Orton and I think Don Morocco was the match where he injured his back. But it was like a minor move that caused his back to get injured because he had done so much high impact stuff, in his career, and it just caught up to him.
Like 2 discs removed.
Yeah, had 2 discs removed, damn near couldn't walk, and they had the belts. Vince wanted to get the belts away from them because, if you weren't on the road, Vince wasn't fucking with you. So he was like, all right, you're out of commission. I want the belts from you. And Dynamite refused, but he was like, I'll drop the belts. But Vince wanted him to drop it to Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, but he was like, I'll only drop it to the Hart Foundation. So when they had their match, he got knocked out by Jimmy Hart's megaphone. Davey Boy lost. That's how the Harts got their belts, and that was just, the Hart Foundation went on to become the Hart Foundation, basically.
A minute. So someone's hurt. This man gonna make him go back to the ring and wrestle. Well, not wrestle, but have him back in the ring so they can lose the belt. What if the man died? How you gonna get so you gonna get a dead man? Look, with a belt, and all of a sudden...
in Vince's defense, he did not force Dynamite Kid to go into the ring. He was like, give me the belts. Dynamite Kid said, no, I'm going to only drop them to the Harts. So Dynamite Kid of his own free will...
Vince wanted the belt.
Yeah. Dynamite Kid of his own free will was like, you know what? I'll go back in the ring and do this. Even though the doctors told him it's a little too early. He did it anyway. They dropped the belts. He went back into recovery, but he came out of recovery way too soon, and it didn't help his body. He came out of recovery way too soon, a couple months after that. But we also get some interviews from some of his friends, like Dan Spivey, aka a former wrestler. He was part of the tag team called the Skyscrapers with him and Sid Vicious. He was also the Waylon Mercy, who was the inspiration for the Bray Wyatt character. And and Dan Spivey is considered to be one of the worst wrestlers in the business, if you ask Jim Cornette. But he was friends with the Dynamite Kid, and he's an admitted steroid user. He tells these stories of wrestlers using the steroids in the back room, talking about how they would take the needles and use them as darts in the wall. Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, which is crazy. I buy that. I don't think he's bullshitting on that one because I mean Dan Spiver is a big son of a bitch. But we also get exactly. We get an interview from Gary Ports, who's another wrestler known as Scott McGee. Not familiar with this guy. I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with him.
And the one who wrestled Bret Hart? Was it somebody else?
I'm pretty sure
Tom McGee.
Has.
My bad.
You're thinking of Tom McGee. Yeah. You're thinking of Tom McGee. But he worked in the WWF. He was a friend of Dynamite Kid, and he helped him during his first major back injury, and he got very emotional in this. You can tell he was definitely not that many people were close to Dynamite Kid as a friend, but he had a few friends in the business, and it's interesting to see how their look at him as like a personal guy, even though he was very closed off at times, being trying to be close with a guy like that. But they start telling the stories of the British Bulldogs being just complete assholes to various people that they could fuck with. What was the story? They told the story about this young wrestler named Mitch Snow, who apparently was kind of a dick backstage, but like who wasn't? And apparently they drugged him. They knocked him. He got knocked out. He passed out in his hotel room. Yeah. They climbed up, snuck into his room. Dynamite Kid shitted in his bag, and they like shaved his eyebrows and shit. And that guy just left. He just quit the business after that. He's like, I'm not dealing with this bullshit.
Man, like,
yeah,
it's pretty. Be around something. X-Pac. Yeah, I heard X-Pac did the same thing.
They've done, various wrestlers have done the whole shit in the bag thing. That's I know Kurt Hennig was a big fan of shit and stuff too. So, Mr. Perfect for y'all that don't know. So, it's just a thing. It's a thing that that a lot of wrestlers did. So, yeah, I remember hearing the wrestling story. I think it was either the Steiners had gotten into a fight with someone or the Bulldogs had gotten into a fight with someone, and they were trying to figure out who, because they thought someone had shitted in their bag, but it wasn't who they thought it was. It was actually Mr. Perfect who was the one that did it, and he set it up for the fuckery to happen. So crazy shit like that happen all the time.
There's a toilet there. Why would you see, man? You gotta stay away from it.
Yeah, and we get reintroduced. Huh?
Brothers, stay away from it. The brothers.
Oh yeah.
Booker T ain't dealing with that. No, Stevie Ray ain't dealing with that.
Certain guys they knew not to fuck with. We get reintroduced to Jacques Rougeau Jr. from the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, aka the Mountie, and he was telling the story about when he was afraid of, because he was a younger guy at the time. He was a little afraid of Dynamite Kid. But he was talking about he saw Dynamite Kid getting ready to head out to the ring, and he had like a needle sticking out of his ass. I thought that was funny, and the Rougeaus was kind of like a newer team that was coming in. The Bulldogs, after they lost the belts, they were never pushed as hard as they were. They had a lot of matches that were mostly draws, and they were having a lot of matches with the Rougeau brothers. And the Bulldogs hated how quickly the younger team was being pushed, and they were, as like I said, Tom was more about the old school ways. You pay your dues and shit like that. So he was basically they were a little bit jealous. And Jock tells the story of how he got this shit slapped out of him by the Dynamite Kid while he was playing cards with.
Because of that, because they won.
Yeah. It's. People were edgy back there. If you won't get in your push, man, you out of sight, out of mind type of mindset.
Yeah, so I might hit you and beat you up.
So he got set up by Mr. Perfect. Dynamite Kid slapped him, and then the Stardust basically jumped his ass in the locker room, and he was embarrassed, and he was like, "I'm gonna get revenge," and he got it by one day. He came, like I think he said it was a week later. His dad told him, his dad, I believe, was a wrestler too, had told him, like, hey, get a roll of quarters from the bank. Had a roll of quarters. He was waiting for him. Said Dynamite Kid came in the locker room, and he saw him and unsuspectedly just punched him in the face and knocked out like his front teeth and started stomping him and shit. Yeah.
So, let me get this straight. So he had the roller quarters inside his fist, right?
Yeah.
you're still hitting with your fist.
Yeah, but
Am I missing?
the roller quarters adds a little more weight to your hand. It's like having like a loaded boxing glove, basically. It's a little extra. It makes your hands heavier, so it adds a little weight to it when you punch them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the roller quarter. So yeah, and he knocked 4 of his teeth.
That's knuckles.
Yeah, that's what Tom Scott McGee was like. He's like, I don't think it was quarters. I think it was brass knuckles. Who knows? But
yeah,
so far the legend has been it was a roller quarters. I did like how the wife, when they asked her about it, she was like, I'm so fucking tired of talking about this shit.
You asked about it so much.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. She's like, is that the only thing they did? Like, it kind of low key is the only thing the Rougeos have done. I'm not, just saying. It's the thing that always gets. Yeah, that's the main thing that gets talked about. But so after that kind of fucked up Tom's tough guy status, because even though he was a smaller guy, he was known as a tough guy because he would fuck people up. He liked to fight, and Dynamite Kid wanted to clap back at him, but like Dino Bravo told him, hey, you don't want those type of problems because of the Canadian Mafia. He basically told the Dynamite Kid that, hey, the Rougeos is connected with the Canadian Mafia. You might want to chill out. And Tom was worried. He got a gun. Eventually, him and his wife moved, and then we find out that was all a lie. Jock deliberately told Dino Bravo, like, hey, he made up a name. He was like, hey, if I don't call this person, this person will start, taking care of business. And Dino Bravo basically snitched on him and told that to the Dynamites because he knew that he didn't like Dino Bravo, but he knew Dino Bravo was a snitch. So he implanted that idea in his head, and that got back to the Bulldogs. And he said he was, it was pretty smart. I gotta say that was pretty smart of the old Mountie there to set that one up. But I thought that was kind of crazy. But like,
tell you one thing though, if you get Dynamite Kid, he off a freak, rib or joke.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. He got him to move out of his own house.
Mm-hmm.
And had him afraid for his life. We all know what happened to Dino Bravo. Really, in a way.
Yeah, Dino Bravo was. Yeah, Dino Bravo got caught up on some other shit. But yeah, that's you're right. You're right about that. So that happened. Craziness happened. So eventually they left. Now the documentary says that he left because of the fear of the threats from the Canadian Mafia. But I think he wrote in his book that the real reason he left is because it was a dispute with him and WWF management over some complimentary plane tickets. So, and that led him to leave the company on the principle of him not getting these plane tickets. I guess he didn't want to have to pay for certain flights or whatever. So he was like, "Fuck it, I'm leaving." So I think it was a compounded issue of the two. So whatever. And the British Bulldogs left the WWF in 1988, and from like 88 to 96, Dynamite Kid he wrestled back at Stampede. He was in All Japan Pro Wrestling, and he wrestled at other British promotions. And of course, he further injured his body with these crazy matches he was having in Japan and all of this crazy shit. He damaged his arm, which that was crazy when his wife was talking about how like he got mad at her. I'll save all that. We'll get into the stories that his wife was
told her about it.
Yeah. We'll get into the stories, but but he was out wrestling him and Dynamite, him and Davey Boy, because Davey Boy was loyal and left with him. But in 1990, Davey Boy Smith left him and went back to the WWF, and he became the British Bulldog because he had that trademark, and he would like send lawyers to the different promotions if Dynamite Kid wrestled as the British Bulldog against the trademark. So it was like a little bit of, I guess, tension between those two. I'm pretty sure they probably stopped talking after that too. So yeah. Cold business.
Got that right. God,
yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah. Oh, this is like other information that wasn't in the episode that I looked up off of Wikipedia. It's a little extra stuff. So let's get into the stuff. Some of the stories from Mrs. Michelle Billington. She talks about a story where she tells a story where Tom got pissed at her for not drinking with him, and him being upset about that and driving on the road playing chicken with the cars coming towards them, and he got mad at her and forced her to sleep in a closet. So it's a bit much.
She's gonna say, "Oh, well, I accept it. It's just a closet."
Yeah. You don't need. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be in that. But that's what people who've been in abusive relationships, they cop please. But
trust me, I see it all the time on Steve Wilkos. That's all them been.
Facts.
He hit me. He assaulted me. But why did you stay with him? Cause I love him.
Yeah, she married him when she was 18. This is probably like the longest relationship she had ever been in. So it was like, it's kind of all she knew, I guess. But yeah. There was another story, Tom, when the arm injury, and he was getting mad at her and almost re-injured it when he tried to take it out of the sling and move it away because it was like dislocated or whatever. It's like, dude, fucking crazy.
These wrestlers, man, just
scripted
business. They just dying left and right, just injuring themselves.
Yeah.
Let me stop. I don't want no heat on me.
Yeah. She talks about how back in 1990 or 1990, Tom showed up at the New Year's Eve party and he had like a shirt that was covered in blood and he had like a gash in his face and freaking out his kids and shit. It's just wild. Then she talks about how after some other incidents, she was tired of his shit and gave him a plane ticket to go to England. She wanted him to leave. And while she was pregnant with their third child, her and Tom got into a fight after that. And he dragged her on the floor and dislocated her jaw. And then he went and got a shotgun and pulled it on her. And he was like, "You better leave or you're going to get shot."
Hold that real quick. This dude loves dislocating jaws.
He does. That's his go-to move is dislocating jaw. That's the equalizer right there. But he got a shotgun on her ass, and she was defiant. She's like, "I'm not leaving. I don't want to have to deal with this shit." Called the cops. The cops was like, "Bitch, if you don't get the fuck out of that house, if you let you leave, just leave." So she eventually left with the kids. All this while she was pregnant, and then I think some months after that, she had her daughter. Was it Amaris? I think was the Amaris was the younger daughter.
I like that name.
Yeah, she mentions how she was grateful for having her and she was a blessing for her and the family. Tom wasn't there when she was born. That's what it seems like. Tom never saw her. I don't think they ever met. They never, from the way they set it up, I don't think her and her Amaris and her dad ever actually met each other in person. But
her sister asked if she wanted to come. I guess that's a little later.
That's a little bit later. But so after that they divorced, and Tom, he moved to England, and that's when he was also traveling, doing other stuff. And at a certain point, he retired, or he had his. He moved to England. He lost contact with his family. He had his first retirement match in Japan, and then he started bare knuckle brawling in garages. 5 years later, he came back. He had a comeback match, and it was a mess. And about 15 years later, the oldest daughter decided to go visit him. He's in a wheelchair now. He's remarried or whatever. And she goes to see him, and they have their emotional moment. Now, the one thing I thought was interesting, and I forgot to look it up, they mentioned his son, Merrick Billington.
I was going to tell you this probably later. I'm like, his son, what? Didn't he have a son?
He had a son
who was in the documentary.
Who was the second child. Now, I didn't get a chance to look it up, but the wife, Michelle, the mom, does mention that he was a high maintenance and kind of a difficult baby. I don't know if he had a lot of health issues or something. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't look it up before I started recording. I forgot to do so. But I thought that was a little interesting that they had the oldest daughter and they had the youngest daughter, but they didn't have the son.
Not the son.
So
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I don't know what's that about. I'm trying to Google it now, and Google is moving slow.
Maybe he didn't want to be in the doc.
That could be it.
Maybe
that might be it. But I still think it's a little odd that he was, the other sisters were there, but he wasn't.
His name is Merrick.
Merrick, yeah. Merrick Billington. I'm trying to find something on him. I can't. I'm going to have to edit this out because I forgot to look it up. And I want to know. I want to know. Yeah, his son is 32 now.
Yeah, they got a picture here of British Bulldog's son, Davy Boy. Is that his name? No, what's his son's name?
Merrick.
No, British Bulldog.
Oh, Davy Boy Smith Jr.
They got a picture of him and Dynamite together.
I was surprised that Davy Boy Smith Jr. wasn't in this episode either, but he probably wasn't in it because he's working with. I think he's signed with the WWE right now, so that's probably the reason why he wasn't in the documentary. A little surprising that Brett wasn't in it, but Brett probably didn't want to talk about him because he's probably doesn't fuck with him, which would make sense.
Brett, I'm just saying, hey, fuck him.
Yeah, Brett probably was like, nah, I'm not talking about that.
But how come people from the WWE can't be on the show?
Because Vince doesn't want him on the show because he doesn't have any control over it, basically. See, the A&E biographies, they have a little bit of control over it, so that's why they're all in on that, because, you know, it's a joint effort, but this is a little separate. But so anyway, eventually, you know, him and the daughter meets up, and then some time after that, he dies on his, like I said, on his 60th birthday due to complications from his past injuries. When they showed him in that clip of the comeback match, he looked like a different person. Like he looked like he lost at least a good damn near 100 pounds compared to what he was. And it was crazy. He looked like the shell of himself. Like he looked like a completely different person. It was, that was weird. But
40 years old.
Probably, yeah, something like that. But yeah, like I said, Dynamite Kid, very influential guy on the business. Very controversial with his life. That moment where they were talking to his boy Gary, and he started to break down a little bit. That got to me. I was like, damn, like, he had his friends, even though he was a fucking asshole. And
his vein comes.
What do you say?
So that big ass vein.
Oh, you talking about Dan Spivey?
Yeah, he also looked like Stone Cold when he took a picture next to him. I'm like, damn, he looked like Stone Cold.
Oh yeah, when he had the blonde hair. Yeah, he did a little bit. Yeah. But crazy, wild episode, wild story, very good. This is not the end of the season though. This is like the halfway point of the season. I think they're gonna take a break for like a couple of weeks or something like that. So, they got more episodes coming out. Although I think they did, from what I saw the other episodes, I feel like they burnt through all the big episodes in the first 5 episodes. But
do you know who's gonna be in the second half?
Chris Canyon is gonna be one. Don't know that much about his story, but apparently I know he died early, and apparently he was like secretly gay or something, which I didn't know about that. So that kind of
that's the one. Okay.
Yeah. So that should be interesting. Luna Vachon is another one, which I think that's going to be interesting. There was a
China on there.
Yeah.
China.
No, well, so that's the thing. They wanted to do China, but Vice is doing an actual documentary about China. So that's gonna be like a whole separate thing. They dropped that trailer like a week ago, but
a trailer?
Yeah, it's a whole documentary that Vice is doing on China, which I thought was kind of odd. They decided to do a documentary as opposed to the Dark Side of the Ring episode, but it is what it is. It was another
same thing.
Yeah, I'm most likely. I guess. Yeah, might as well. Then there was another like a Japanese promotion that was kind of like a Japanese ECW type of thing. We're gonna talk about that, and I can't remember those are like some of the episodes. It's like 5 more episodes I think that they got to do, but this might be like recency bias, but I would say this is probably one of the better episodes they've done out of the entire series after watching this.
It's one of the best.
Yeah.
Top 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting, really good. It's got the right amount of dark side and also wrestling history. Because like the Jake the Snake episode is just all dark, just like it's so dark that like I don't even want to really touch that one. You know what I'm saying? But it's like this got a good balance of wrestling history and like the ooh, that's fucked up type of shit. You know what I'm saying? But interesting episode. Check it out if you can. I think that's about most of what we got to talk about for this one. But Cuba, let the people know where they can find you.
Follow me on YouTube at Cuba the Goat and Cuba the Goat Gaming. I will be posting on Cuba the Goat Gaming soon. I'm just trying to maintain this channel, you know, trying to build this up to the top. You know, got to build it up to the top, all the way up there, and when it all of a I try to cut a promo, man. I try to be like
build it up. We got to build it up to the top. We won't stop.
But yeah, that's it. Follow me. Also, follow me on Instagram, man. All my subscribers, go subscribe to this guy right here. Get his damn subs and get my subs up as well. Or you all will be added to the list again. Sub to both of us.
Facts. You
Damn.
can find me on
Instagram as well.
BrogiNaric. Find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, maybe Twitch. I don't know. Twitch is being kind of shitty right now. We'll see. But thanks for watching and stay tuned. We'll be back for the next episode. Don't know when that's dropping, but we definitely want to try to finish out this series. This video's been doing pretty well, so yeah, I want to keep it going. And stay tuned for more videos. Peace. Nice.